The topic of this video is questions. The very concept of a question itself. And how asking the wrong question can lead you down the wrong road, even if the question itself seems perfectly valid on its face. As we all know, in the past few days, we've seen two famous, rich famous and connected black women, black American women, African American women, get engaged to men who are white, or at the very least not black. It's going to depend if you consider Armenians to be white. But in any case, they got engaged to men who are not African American or not classified as black in any shape, form, or fashion. And we have all these people now asking, what's going to happen to the African American community? What's going to happen to our culture? What's going to happen to our race? Now, intelligent people know nothing. Black people aren't going anywhere. Generally, the global black population is not going to be diminished or eliminated by the increasing out marriage rates. But African Americans are asking the question, but what is going to happen to African Americans specifically if more and more African American women marry out? How are we going to pass down culture and heritage and history? Now keep in mind, the African American out marriage rate, as far as I know, for women, it's still less than half that of African American men. So my question is, why is it a tragedy now? Why is it suddenly an emergency? What will happen? That's an interesting question. But a better question is, why? Why, in the late 80s and in the 90s, as more and more African American men married out, why did anyone not ask the question, what is going to happen to African American culture when we have increasing percentages of African American women who are not getting married at all partially because African American men are marrying out? Why was that question not asked? Why did we not ask in 1989, in 1995? Why did we not ask what was going to be the long-term effect of so many African American men marrying out? And as we know, they're more likely to marry out when they marry, when they have a higher social status and higher economic security and income. We did not ask that question. I was there. I was around. I do not remember. Some black women were asking, sure, some of us were asking. But our so-called leaders, most of whom are men, and someone, please correct me if I'm wrong. If you can dig up the stuff, I'm happy to correct myself. But please tell me, where were our leaders, your Sharptons, your Jacksons, the heads of these various, Kwasi Mfume, the NAACP, where were these leaders asking 20 and 30 years ago, what will be the long-term effect of so many African American men out marrying? Nobody asked. You know why they didn't ask? Or at least they didn't ask it seriously. I'm not saying no one ever brought it up in passing, but there's been no push, no sense of urgency. Why didn't they ask what was going to be the effect? Because this thing, it's been a long time coming, okay? It's been a long time coming. Now, I personally have always been an equal opportunity romantic engager, okay? When I was looking to get married, I really was not eliminating anybody on the basis of race or color. I eliminated people on the basis of economics, based on intelligence, based on kindness, sympathy, yes. All those things were deal breakers. Race, no. But I have discovered that I am not like a lot of African American women. Lots of African American women felt either by guilt or obligation or fear that they could not day out, and we're feeling like resentful prisoners. They couldn't go anywhere. This is the feeling I remember from the 90s, feeling like, oh, all these black men are leaving. Some of the ones that are leaving are smartest and are richest and are most successful and most influential, and people with the most potential are going away. And what are we going to do because white men won't marry us and white men won't marry us for sex? Because again, the whole question has always been black, white, black, white. That's due to the history of this country. Other people aren't really considered in the equation when we're discussing these arguments. So nobody, I'll tell you why they didn't ask the question, okay? Because I think it was just assumed that black women were never going to go anywhere. They would always just be here, struggling to maintain the race on our own. People just, black men and black women too, just assumed that black men could just continue to do whatever, and African American women were so under a spell that we were just going to continue to have kids out of wedlock or not have kids at all, and just pour all our energy into the community, into the church, and not just move on. And African American women are loyal, very loyal. You know, displaced loyalty is folly, and a lot of us are seeing that now. So what we have now, we're asking these questions now of what is going to happen now that our Serenas and our Condolas, okay, our rich athletes and our cultivated and cultured African American women, now they're marrying out. This question is only here because we didn't ask a separate question 20, 30 years ago. And we didn't ask because we didn't care about the answers. We thought we knew the answer, and we didn't care about what that answer was going to be. Now suddenly it's an emergency. Too late, baby. It's too late. Because now African American women have started asking themselves different questions. We start asking ourselves, well, what is in it for me to stay loyal to a concept that doesn't serve me? What's in it for me to keep this group of men as my requirement when to them I am only an option? What's in it for me? It's a new set of questions. And what happens to the African American community as a whole, whether there's going to be these different, perhaps unforeseen effects. Now we're the ones saying, interesting, but not going to stop me from doing what I want to do. So, yeah, I'm sorry this has been a bit of a ramble. I don't really have time to make some of my more reasoned and researched arguments. That's just something I was thinking about today, that we're asking these questions now because we didn't ask a different set of questions 20 years ago. And at this point, it is what it is. And we are no longer letting someone else ask our questions for us. We're asking our own questions and finding our own answers. And if we break with tradition, if they're not the questions the black community wants us to ask, it's too bad. It's too bad because you had a chance to care. You had a chance to ask different questions, and you didn't ask them. And you're afraid of us asking them and really answering the questions. So it is what it is. You get what you get. Decisions have consequences. And that's just what it is.